morning, good afternoon, I should say. Welcome to another edition of Choppin It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Lots to talk about, plenty to talk about. Today I'm going to focus a little bit on the NBA and focus a little bit on college basketball. Okay, so let's get started. Where do I begin? First of all, any win at the Garden for the Knicks is a good win. Go figure. Maybe the third best team in the league comes into the Garden, the San Antonio Spurs. A tradition of winning, great coaching, always prepared. Maybe have a top 5 player in the game in Kawhi Leonard. Go figure. New York Knicks pull out a win against the San Antonio Spurs, 94-90. But there will not be a Knicks game without any drama. First of all, put the game to the side. Great win by the Knicks. Hopefully this is a sign of some new things to come. Maybe the league turns it around. The team turns it around. Go into the All-Star break. They play OKC on Wednesday in OKC. Maybe they pull out a win and go into the All-Star break with about a week off, getting some rest and focusing on the stretch run down the stretch here. But I have to start with James Dolan. Whatever respect I have for James Dolan, or if any respect that I have for James Dolan, has greatly diminished in the last 24 hours. Again, I don't want you to think that I condone the behavior of Charles Oakley, but I do not believe it should have ever came down to this. If there was a difference between James Dolan and Charles Oakley, that should have been squashed, handled, or taken care long before this incident that took place last week Wednesday at the Garden. To turn on the TV and watch James Dolan sit at courtside under the basket with Bernard King on one side, Spreewell on the other side, and Larry Johnson alongside of Spreewell, was the most pathetic PR move that I've seen in some time, and maybe in all time. Just pathetic. And he called the right person, Spreewell. And no knock on Spreewell. He was a great Knick for the 5 years that he was there. He was loved. In fact, I believe he got more love. He received more love than Allen Houston, and Allen Houston was clearly the better player. But Spreewell, he had a way that just related with New York fans, or it coincide with New York fans. He had that grit. He had that no back down personality. He gave you his guts. He put it all on the line every night. He wasn't the smoothest person or the smoothest player, but he was efficient. And quite frankly, we don't get to the championship game finals that year without him. Even though it was a strike-shortened season, and can't forget that 1-8 matchup against Miami, and Allen Houston hits that floater down the lane against Miami in Game 7. But Spreewell was a big part of that. I get that. But he chose the right player, a former player, to come back. No knock on Spreewell. Well, we know he's experienced some financial woes over the years, and I'm sure Dolan paid him handsomely to come sit next to him at courtside so that he can spend this PR move. I just thought it was distasteful. The timing of it was horrible. Spreewell said it himself. He hasn't been back to the Garden in 13 years. He said he did not like it when he was traded to Minnesota. He thought it could have been handled differently. He was caught off guard. And after 13 years, you bring him back to the Garden, and you guys had some differences, but you bring him back the game after the Charles Oakley incident. Unbelievable, incredible, but more importantly, distasteful on the behalf of the owner of the New York Knicks, James Dolan. As I said earlier, whatever respect I had has now diminished or decreased even more. Listen, I'm going to go on record. When you have an owner that is making racist comments in his home during pillow talk, as he's laid up with a friend of his, whatever she was to a significant other, whatever mistress, whatever you want to call it. But he's in his own home during pillow talk. And he is recorded and quickly forced to sell the team. Adam Silverman, find a loophole for James Dolan to sell the team. Make it possible. I know it's probably not, but do us Knicks fan a favor. Make it possible. Listen, in a business, if you're going to have a successful business, or in this case, a successful franchise, it's going to start at the top. It's going to start at the top. But in this case, I look at business in reverse. It starts at the top, but really the top is the bottom because the top is usually the foundation. Now let's go with that analogy. The foundation. If you're building a building, a high-rise building, I don't care how beautiful the loft is up top or either the penthouse is up top. If the foundation isn't strong or structured correctly, that beautiful penthouse could possibly crumble. And this is what we're witnessing with the New York Knicks. It's that the foundation of the New York Knicks is James Dolan. As he's the top now, but he sits on the bottom of this building that he is building. But because he is so rotten down there as the foundation, the floors above cannot execute or excel right. Adam Silverman, please find a way to force this man to sell the team. It would be to the best interest to the New York franchise, which is a storied franchise, not only in the NBA, but in all of sports. What took place the other night, it's not just a stain on the Knicks franchise, but it's a stain on the NBA. And it shouldn't be tolerated. And owners shouldn't be able to exercise or their weight or throw their weight around and cause a ruckus or a scene of something of that magnitude. But getting back to the game, what a game it was. Kawhi Leonard, perhaps maybe a top 5 player in the game, puts up 36 points, had no help. Carmelo Anthony, he puts up 25 points. Had some clutch shots down the stretch. What I liked about some of his shots, it wasn't just 3-point shot. He was in around the elbow. He moved in a little bit. Some really clutch shot. He had a nice little baseline jump shot with the double team coming. LaMarcus Aldridge coming over. I thought it was a great shot, great opportunity there. I still don't know why Lance Thomas is in the game. This guy should not be playing. But anyway, Porzingis, I want to touch bases on him. He scored 16 points, had 4 block shots, maybe about 7-8 rebounds. But here's a big stat. He played 37 minutes. Why? Because he only had 3 fouls. I'm not an analytic guy, but he had a plus 20, either plus 20 or plus 25 while on the court. Good things happen when this guy is on the court. He's not the greatest one-on-one defender, but he definitely can protect the basket or protect the rim as a help defender. But he has to stay on the court. Remember, you don't play defense with your hands, you play defense with your feet. But what a performance by him. Derrick Rose, he puts up 18 points. But the unsung hero might have been Hernan Gomez. The guy continues to impress. He gets his second start of the season. He puts in 12 points, 9 rebounds, 3 steals, I believe it was. The guy is just a smart player. He knows how to play the game. He plays within his game. He doesn't do anything. I was watching the game closely just to get a good eye at him, see where his IQ is. He sets great screens. Guys doing, how you doing, Norm? Thanks for tuning in. Guy sets great screens. I think this guy is going to have a future with the Knicks. I'm not sure if he's ready to be inserted as an everyday starting center alongside Porzingis. But there's one thing that could come from them two playing together. They played together over in Spain before Porzingis came to the NBA. So they're familiar with one another. They may have chemistry with one another. They're two different games. As Hernangomez, he plays a little bit closer to the basket. As KP likes to step out a little bit and get his offense going. So they won't be in the way of each other. So that would be a good look if those two could play together and continue to mesh. But good win by the Knicks. I want to talk about the Spurs for a second. The Spurs has the ability to win a championship. No doubt about it. Not just because they have Kawhi Leonard, but because they have some good, smart players, and they have great team chemistry over there, and they're led by a head coach that could possibly be the best head coach in the modern era. But I want to talk about LaMarcus Aldridge. Is he a bust? Is he a free agent signing bust? You know, he had 15 points, 10 rebounds last night against New York. Yesterday afternoon, I should say. It was the quietest 15 points. The quietest 15 points. When you have Tony Parker, which is unusual, play 31 minutes and don't score at all. Not a point. Not even a free throw. Someone has got to step up and be a Robin to Kawhi Leonard. Someone's got to be a Robin. 15 points and 10 rebounds. That's David Lee's numbers coming off the bench, which is actually a great signing for that team. But Aldridge, you have to be big. This is a guy that was this was a guy that was 20 and 10 in Portland every year. Is he simply just a good was a MVP on a bad team? I don't know about this guy, LaMarcus Aldridge. He's in the perfect system. Kawhi Leonard is an unselfish ball player. You have an agent Tony Parker that's willing to pass the ball. They have ball movement that allows everybody to touch the rock. He should be able to get great touches. You can't double team anybody out there. If you do, you're running out to Danny Green on the perimeter, Ginobili on the perimeter, Patty Mills on the perimeter. I'm not too keen on LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he'll be all right as we go along. But this guy, in a game against New York, and you'll be guarded by a guy who's constantly in foul trouble and Porzingis, and you can't get it done. 15 points, 10 rebounds. To me, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Norm says that the fans should boycott MSG since the owner banned Oakley. That would be a difficult task, Norm. Growing up in New York City, they love their Knicks over there. Going to a Knicks game is like a night out on the town. If you're fortunate enough to get seats close enough to the court, you get to rub elbows with celebrities or at least take pictures from a distance from them. It's like a night out. It's almost like a club, going to a club. I doubt something like that will happen. But you know what? A couple of games with some empty seat, maybe that changes the tune of James Dolan. It's not a bad idea, not clearly a great thought. I just don't see it happening, but maybe it needs to happen because James Dolan needs to go as an owner. Needs to go. Moving along, there was a couple of other games in action yesterday, and a shout out to Tracy Washington. He always tunes in, catches the video. He's a huge Knicks fan. A lot of times I see him posting things about Knicks fans. Tracy, if you got any comments, please comment it. I'll get to your questions. There were some other games last night. One game that was a good game, by the way, was the Detroit Pistons against Toronto Raptors. This one was in Toronto. Toronto was leading by 16 to find a way to lose this game to Detroit by 1. And I'm going to tell you something. Could Reggie Jackson be on the move after signing that big contract over in Detroit a couple of seasons ago? Well, at the time it was a big contract. Could he be on the move? Is he the Achilles heel on a Detroit roster? He sat behind Westbrook for a few seasons. And to me, he plays a lot like Westbrook. But I don't think that style is conducive for the Detroit Pistons. And I think it's wearing thin on the fans there with the coaching staff. Yesterday in this game, which was a thrilling win for Detroit, he only got 17 minutes. As Ish Smith came off the bench, you could say he was the key to the game and maybe even the MVP of the game, along with him and Tobias Harris, as he had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And Tobias Harris, he led all scorers for the Pistons with 26 points. But he ran the offense much better, more efficient than Reggie Jackson. Could Reggie Jackson be on the move? It seems like his style of play is not fitting in with this team. I think that this team doesn't have enough talent to go deep into the playoffs, but it has enough talent to make sure it is a top 8 and not on the bubble. Right now they sit in the 8th spot in the East, and they have like maybe a 1-game lead over the 9th place team. Let's look at it this way. New York's 12th, and they're only 3 games out. So Ish Smith, he seems to run the offense a lot better. On that team, you got guys like Tobias Harris, Stanley Johnson, that's a good-looking youngster there. You got Caldwell Pope, he put up 21 last night. And then you have Drummond there, which is really key, and one of the Morris twins. And the thing about it is there's enough talent to be a set 8, easily a part of the set 8, but for some reason they're making it more challenging and difficult for themselves. After giving Cleveland a nice little contest last year in the first round, I believe everybody's was expecting a little bit more from this team, and I don't know if they have it. And it is a possibility that this team may not make the playoffs. Maybe a week off of the All-Star break might do them some good. I don't think they have anybody who will be attending any of the festivities, so that might help out quite a bit. Just get a week off, take some time off, let some aches and pains heal up a little bit. Maybe just a couple of days to reflect. Everybody needs that. But they beat Toronto, who came into the season looking to only look up to Cleveland. And right now they're looking up to a few teams. They're looking up to Washington. They're looking up to Boston. And they might be right there neck and neck with Atlanta. So this is a team that's actually been hit with a major injury to DeRozan. And it seemed like since he's come back, the team hasn't gotten on track. And I'm looking at them. I'm wondering if maybe that run is over. They definitely need a boost. They need a charge. And I'm not sure if it could come from within. And listening to an interview, post-game interview with Kyle Lowry, if this don't turn around quickly, I believe he's leaving and returning back to the States. And that's just my gut feeling. I think he will be out. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind having him in a New York Knicks uniform. I kid you not. But they need to make a move for power forward. In the offseason, they lost Bismack Biyombo. They weren't able to replace him. They did go out and make a move and sign at the last minute Jared Sullinger, which I like Jared Sullinger. I think he's a pretty good player. I don't know if he's a starter in this league, but he definitely can help you coming off the bench and give you a good 20 minutes a game. He's a very good scorer. He has skills, but he's been injured all season. I don't believe he's played not one game in the regular season this year. And until he hits the court, we don't know if he could be a difference maker over there. Fill in that power forward void, because that's what they're missing. They're really missing a power forward void there. Someone that either they can defend or someone that can give them some extra buckets. And until then, until he comes, the only answers I have for them is probably three players. One, I don't know if you're going to get. That's Paul Millsap. And the thing about Paul Millsap, in a surprise move a couple of seasons ago in the offseason, DeMarre Carroll left Atlanta to go there. And him and Millsap, they played together in Utah. They have a nice little friendship. I wonder if he would be interested and open to going there and possibly signing on. Because he could fill a void if they somehow could swing a trade in these next 10 days as the trade deadline is nearing. But if you don't go after him, do you go after Kenneth Faried? Denver just made a trading Jokic to Portland for Plumlee. And Plumlee, this is the better Plumlee of the three. Maybe Faried is expendable. Maybe he could go to Toronto and fill a void that Biyombo had yet last season. So that'd be interesting. Or do they knock on the door of Orlando and go after Ibaka? Now, the thing about with Ibaka, a couple of seasons ago, he was one of those defensive players that always competed for Defensive Player of the Year. He was a good shot blocker, good rebounder. But then something happened that kind of strayed away from that part of his game. And that was they tried to make him an offensive player. He had a reasonable jump shot within 10, 12 feet, but they stretched him out and he started hitting threes. And I think the more he concentrated on his offense, his defense started to decrease. So I'm not sure what happens there, but definitely they need a power forward to fill the void. They have some draft picks that they can give up. So look for them to make a move, because if they fail to make it at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, I can see Kyle Lowry on the move. And I pose this question to you guys out there. If the Final Four for the NBA is Cleveland, Boston, Golden State, and San Antonio, who has the better chance of suiting up next year as the starting point guard for the New York Knicks? Will it be Derrick Rose? Will it be Chris Paul? Or will it be Kyle Lowry? Because I believe one of those three would be suiting up for the New York Knicks. And if I had a preference of order, I'll go Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, then Derrick Rose. I believe Derrick Rose may be the best player of the three, but with injuries and not being quite a pass-first point guard, I think he's going to hurt the growth of Porzingis. So I like the idea of a Chris Paul. And I like Kyle Lowry. This is a guy coming out of Villanova, slowly but surely started progressing. And now he's coming to his own. And you can make the case that he's clearly a top 10 point guard in this league. And I'll count it down. And I mean, no specific order, but you go with Curry, Westbrook, Kyrie, Chris Paul, Dame, Isaiah Thomas, John Wall, Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker. I think he's a top 10. So, I mean, if you want to throw James Harden in there because he's playing point guard for the first time this year, sure, go ahead. And he's still, to me, he's a top 10 point guard. Derrick Rose, I don't know, Dragic, I believe Lowry is still a top 10 point guard. Coming out of Villanova some years ago in the backcourt with Randy Foye, and what a segue to go into our next topic, the NCAA men's basketball. As February is getting to the midpoint, you start focusing on conference tournaments, and then the big dance is coming up, less than 30 days away. Are there any favorites? Does Villanova repeat? This is the top 2 team in the league, maybe top 1 team. Does a mid-major finally wins a tournament, such as Gonzaga, maybe Baylor? Who do you guys got out there? I mean, you have the usual suspects that's always lurking: Kansas, Louisville, North Carolina, UCLA. Duke is not too far. Kentucky's not too far. I mean, who at this point would you consider a favorite? I can't really say. You know, you have some of the premier programs like Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina and Kansas, but with so many one and dones, so often we see these one and dones, and when they go up against a mid major that has juniors and seniors, a lot of times it's not easy for these premier programs. This could be the year a Gonzaga might snatch the championship. It could be a year that a team like Baylor could snatch the championship. Maybe Oregon sneaks in there and snatches a championship. You never know. This is going to be an exciting tournament. It's going to be a good run. It really is, because, again, I don't think that the one and done programs might have a chance. One of the reasons why Villanova was successful, because they had some 3-year players, 4-year players last year, and they have a lot of them returned from last year that's on this roster this year. So this Villanova team, it could be in a driver's seat to get back to the national title game. There's a lot of games to be played. Don't get me wrong. We're far from it. But at the end of the day, who is your favorite? Who is your favorite coming out of college to represent in the NCAA Championship game? It's a little early, but it's okay to have a favorite. Can Kentucky make a run at it? Can North Carolina stay in the top 10, make a run at it? Can Grayson Allen ever get his head right and just play basketball and help lead Duke back to it? Will Kansas stick around the top 5 and make a run at it? Is Arizona a dark horse? Is Oregon a dark horse? Who's your favorite? My favorite is not in there. That's Syracuse. And speaking of Syracuse, I will be going to the game Sunday night. Unfortunately, it's the night of the All-Star game, but that's what DVRs are for. Syracuse is coming to town to play Georgia Tech. I have tickets for that game. Those who know me, I've been a Syracuse fan for years and years and years and years. Growing up, guy from my neighborhood went to Syracuse by the name of Tony Red Bruin. I followed the program since then. I had to sweat out the missed free throw by Derek Coleman just to watch Indiana win the championship. I couldn't have been any happier when a freshman out of the Maryland area, Washington area, Carmelo, leads them to victory. What an exciting day that was. Let me just say that. Jim Boeheim finally getting the opportunity to cut down the nets and hoist the trophy. Incredible. Incredible. And let me tell you something. As a kid growing up, especially in the mid-'80s, as a Syracuse fan, I despised the ACC. You always had that topic, which conference was better, ACC or the Big East? ACC or the Big East? And of course, I was rolling with the Big East. And in the mid-'80s, the Big East came alive. They had that one year where Villanova, St. John's, and Georgetown was in the Final Four. I think that was the first time, or maybe the last time, that 3 teams from the same conferences was in the in the Final Four. Just outstanding. And somehow or another, Villanova pulls off the upset. But at the end of the day, I always was a Big East over the ACC. It kills me, it pains me to see that Syracuse, because of football-related reasons, join the ACC. For the life of me, I don't understand why, and I do not like it. And the Big East that we once knew or once grew up watching was dismantled. And one of the advantages that Syracuse had in the Big East, because they were never a power game, even when they had cycling, there really was never a power game. Boeheim never recruited from a certain city or a certain region. He always recruited athletes, wing players, and he went far. California, everywhere. He went anywhere, everywhere to recruit. And he always seemed to have an advantage in the Big East because the Big East used to pound it in. But not in this case here. He would get wing players. And here's another thing about Jim Boeheim. For the life of me, how come no one's been able to figure out that 2-3 zone? How come no one has been able to figure out that 2-3 zone? But since Syracuse have gone into the ACC, they've struggled. Because the type of players that they normally recruit, they're all in the ACC. So now he don't have the advantage that he had in the Big East. And really, Syracuse have struggled since joining the ACC. It hasn't been really a good look. They may have had one run, but they struggle to be a top 25 team. Currently, they're not a top 25 team. They're probably headed to the NIT unless they make some kind of miraculous run at this point in the season now. Maybe win a couple of regular season games, win the majority of them, and go deep into the ACC tournament. Right now, the ACC tournament, there's a team that probably might have 2 lottery players picked in this upcoming draft in the ACC that nobody's talking about, and that's Florida State. Florida State is a very good team. They got a big man down there, a freshman, and then they got this guy. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind the Knicks sneaking up and getting this guy in the draft this year, and that's Dwayne Bacon, 6'7", 6'6", wing guy, very athletic. One of those guys gets to the basket, just finds his own shot. I like him a lot out of Florida State. So a lot of basketball to be played in the college ranks, but it should be fun. It should be very good. It should be interesting. That's for sure. Again, I don't think one of the premier programs that features a lot of one and done is going to win this year. I think Villanova has a chance to repeat. I like Gonzaga's chances. But I think it's going to be a dark horse team. I'm not sure who that team is. It could be a team like Florida State. It could be a team like Florida State. But I do think it's going to be a team that hosts a point guard that can lead the way. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of point guards, the draft. Right now, the prospects coming out, it's point guard heavy. It really is. It's point guard heavy. Whether you got the guy Fultz out of Washington, you got Fox out of Kentucky, you got my guy, I like Lonzo Ball out of UCLA. I think you got Smith. I think his name is Smith. Let me get his name together. Gosh. I think it's Smith, Dennis Smith, something like that, out of NC State. So, I mean, it really is a point guards league. We'll see what happens, though, but a lot of games to be played. You got a good game on tonight. I believe it's number 13. Is it Kansas against West Virginia. Yeah, that should be a good game tonight. You got Louisville, which is number 4. And you never can count Pitino out. Yeah, and that's the thing. Rick Pitino, he always seems to surface every 2-3 years. He's kind of like Rizzo in Michigan State. Every 2-3 years, they make a Final Four run. Every 2-3 years, they make a Final Four run. They don't go past 4 years without a Final Four. Neither one of those, not a Izzo team nor a Rick Pitino team. Could Louisville be one of those teams this year, find their way back to the national title game? It's going to be interesting. But Louisville, they head up to the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse tonight. If Syracuse is looking to get into some good standings or good gracious with the committee, a win tonight would be very impressive. Not only you beat a ranked team, but it's also a conference foe in Louisville, because Louisville is also in the ACC. So that would be a good win tonight. Let's see what Jim Boeheim is able to pull out with Syracuse tonight and see if they can get the win. But that's going to do it for my show today. I want to thank all y'all that tuned in. Thank Norm for tweeting in or texting in. So I appreciate that. So I'll see you guys in 24. Peace and blessings. And thanks for chopping it up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. See you on 24.